Hey guys, today we are making a classic steakhouse dinner menu at home, perfect for special occasions or dinner parties with friends. This would also be great for Father's Day. We are making all the classics: garlic herb filet mignon, honey garlic shrimp, crockpot creamed spinach, classic salty steakhouse baked potatoes, and a beautiful tiramisu. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go get started. So I'm going to start with the tiramisu recipe because I like to make this the day beforehand. So I have a heat-proof bowl over a pot with simmering water, and in that I have 4 egg yolks and a half a cup of sugar. And we just want to whisk this constantly until it is pale and silky for about 5 minutes. This is just really slowly cooking those egg yolks. So if you don't continuously whisk it, you might get curdled egg. But that's what it should look like, thickened and pale. So then I'm going to fold in 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese. I like to keep it out of the fridge for about 15 minutes just so it's a little bit more softened. And we just want to whisk that together until no lumps remain. And then in a separate bowl, I have 1 cup of cold heavy cream, and I'm just using my hand mixer to whip this up until soft peaks form. And here I'm showing you what you're looking for with soft peaks. Soft peaks means they don't stand up straight when you lift the beaters out. This was a little bit more at stiff peaks, but that's totally fine. You just want them to at least be soft peaks. So then we are just going to fold that into our egg mixture and set that aside for just a minute, because now we are going to work on our mixture for the ladyfingers. So I have 1.5 cups of espresso that I cooled. You could also just use really strong coffee. And to that I am adding in 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 tablespoon of liqueur. You could use rum or Kahlua, or you could just omit it from the recipe. So now I have my 8x8 pan here and 24 ladyfinger biscuits. Comes in a package like that. So we're just gonna dip the ladyfingers into the espresso mixture and line them up in the pan. So we're gonna do half, so 12 of the ladyfingers. And then we're going to spread half of the cream mixture on top of the ladyfingers. And then repeat by doing the remaining ladyfingers. And what I like to do is alternate. So on the first layer, I have them all lined up vertically, but then on the second layer, I put them horizontally because that just makes sure that there's no gaps in the tiramisu. And then we're just going to put the remaining cream on top. And then we just want to cover this and chill it for at least 4 hours. I highly recommend overnight. It just ensures that it won't fall apart when you cut into it. So while that is chilling, we are going to move on to my crockpot creamed spinach. Okay, so what I'm doing here is combining the ingredients for the creamed spinach sauce here. You could do this in a saucepan or a microwave-safe bowl. So I have 3 ounces of cream cheese, 1/4 cup of heavy cream, 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. You could do 2 cloves of garlic minced or some garlic powder, salt and pepper. And you just want to warm this up to be able to incorporate the cream cheese into the remaining ingredients. And in my crock pot, I have 8 ounces of fresh spinach, and we're just going to pour this mixture on top. And it's going to look like no way that this is enough, but the spinach is really going to wilt down and create water and liquid, so it creates a really nice creamy sauce right in the crock pot. So we're going to set that on low for 2 to 3 hours and move on to our baked potatoes. So I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I washed 3 large russet potatoes, dried them thoroughly, And then I have about 2 tablespoons of oil. We want to really coat the outsides of the potatoes. And then a tablespoon of salt. We really want to crust the outsides, rub that salt into the skin. It's going to give them a really great crispy texture. So we want to bake them for 1 hour on a wire rack. And then I'm just cutting them down the middle, not going all the way through, and then taking a towel, because they're really hot, and just squeezing on the ends, and that's going to open them up really beautifully. And then I'm just taking a spoon and rubbing it along the edges just to loosen some of that potato. And then I'm going to add in a pat of butter, about a half a tablespoon, along with a little bit more salt. And we want to bake that an additional hour. And that's going to make these really light and fluffy and creamy. So now moving on to the honey garlic shrimp, I have 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of honey, some chili powder, smoked paprika, garlic powder, and salt and pepper. And I'm just going to add in 1 pound of jumbo shrimp that are peeled and deveined with the tails still on, and let that marinate for about 30 minutes. I decided to bake these in the oven since I had the oven on anyway, so you'll see the marinade, got firmed up because the butter got cold again in the refrigerator. So we're just gonna try and spread that all back on the pan, and at 400 degrees, bake them for about 10 minutes. You can also do these in a skillet with some oil, just 2 to 3 minutes per side, whatever you'd prefer. I just like to try and cook everything at the same time. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I like to make a really juicy, beautifully flavored filet mignon. This method works great every time. So you want to allow the steaks to sit at room temperature for 30 minutes before cooking, so that way it cooks evenly all throughout the steak. Again, the oven is set at 400 degrees, and I have my cast iron skillet. You can also use a skillet just as long as it can go into the oven. And I have oil in the pan, and you want to let that oil heat up for 2 to 3 minutes so you get a really good sear. Place the steaks in the pan and cook for about 2 to 3 minutes, or until they get a nice crust. They should release from the pan really easily when you try to flip them. And then on the top of that, I'm adding some butter, garlic cloves, and herbs, and we're just going to baste the steaks in this butter for another 30 seconds to a minute, and then pop them into the oven for about 2 to 6 minutes, depending on your desired doneness. So medium is 140 to 145 degrees internal temperature. So you can always use a probe thermometer if you're not sure by touch. I believe for medium, they took me about 5 minutes in the oven, but it also depends on how thick they are. And look how beautiful that is. You want to let them rest for 5 minutes before you cut into them so those juices go back into the steak. So there's dinner done. It's so beautiful and delicious, and I like, especially when doing dinner parties, to have everything kind of done at the same time. So cooking everything in that 400-degree oven is really perfect. So now let's finish up our tiramisu for dessert. I have 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder that I'm just going to sprinkle all over the top, as well as some chocolate shavings. And look how gorgeous. You can see all the layers. See, it really firmed up and held together beautifully. This is another recipe I've been making for years and years now, and it's really, really foolproof. This is just one of the most decadent desserts and a perfect way to end a big steakhouse meal, because you've got that creamy mascarpone filling with the slightly sweet coffee biscuits all soaked in there. It's just so amazing. And it's not overly sweet, it just gives you that nice light pick-me-up after the meal. I really hope you guys enjoyed coming along and making this steakhouse dinner menu with me. It was such a hit. I'm probably going to make it again for Father's Day because my husband loved it so much, and it really wasn't a lot of work. If you plan ahead and make notes of what time everything needs to go into the oven, it's really quick and easy and all comes out nice and hot together. And having the creamed spinach in the crock pot is a real lifesaver. If you give it a try, please be sure to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.